You're never going to win at air hockey again. Artificial intelligence now plays. Actually, it only seems like it plays defense. There might be a window still. The Olympics is using artificial intelligence to optimize their beds made of cardboard. Never worry again about losing your car key. You can now just ask your car if it will open up. Voice synthesis. And I want to put out a warning just to try to get ahead of this trend. But significant others are often putting cashews in your ear, pretending they're AirPods as a joke. You have been warned. Remember, there's a difference between a cashew and an AirPod, but you can't feel it when it's in your ear. Don't let this happen to you. Oh my God, it really does feel just like an AirPod. That's crazy. Can't eat that one. Researchers have designed a new artificial intelligent eyeball to mimic the praying mantis, and it uses computer vision. It's crazy. Google has revealed a new AI-powered Streetscape. It's part of Google Maps. It's hyper-realistic, crazy stuff. If you're having FOMO that you can't invest in XAI, it sounds like Tesla might be buying some to the tune of $5 billion, actually. Stack Overflow has released the 2024 Developer Survey. We're going to find all the AI tidbits. There is now a self-organizing drone flock that also demonstrates safe traffic solutions for cities of the future. And we're getting closer and closer to longevity escape velocity. Scientists have now extended the lifespan of mice 25% with a new antibody. But first, let's check Alan's conservative countdown to AGI, and we have a tick up. Oh gosh, we're at 76% now, everybody. Wow. All right. I never know how to feel when this happens, but let's just learn what we can. So what took us to 76%? DeepMind Alpha Proof and Alpha Geometry 2. Solve advanced reasoning problems in mathematics. Okay, I remember the AGI levels update, and that didn't seem to make a tick. So yeah, this is Google DeepMind, probably the best researchers in the world in AI. AI achieves silver medal standards, solving international mathematical Olympiad problems. Pretty technical stuff, but Alpha Proof, Alpha Geometry 2, they bring us closer to AGI because they provide advanced reasoning capabilities, problem solving in multiple domains. Anybody can make these ticks whenever they want, but this is Dr. Allen, and he thinks that those advanced reasoning capabilities, the ability to problem solve in multiple domains, the reinforcement learning, and then the ability for it to connect the mathematical world to formal language deserve to take us to 76%. So here we are. But yeah, less than a quarter to go until we are not the smartest entity on the planet, in a general sense. Now let's play some air hockey with a robot. Look at that thing go. How fun would that be? I actually really like air hockey. It makes me like hyper and it like gets me all amped up. So obviously if I was a billionaire, I'd want this thing in my garage. Oh yeah, this guy's got a good idea. Make two play against each other. That's what I want to see. It doesn't feel like you could beat a pro at air hockey. Actually, how good are pros at air hockey? Okay, here's the final match. World's #1 Colin Cummings versus world's #4 Jacob Weissman. Oh, they play so close to the center. Is that the technique? Oh, it's all like ninja bullet style and strategic positioning, then boom. I don't get it. I always defend back. I don't think they should be defending so close to the middle. Are you sure these are pros? Yeah, robots are going to beat us at this. This is what the best of the best play like. Let's be honest. All right, so in the Is Artificial Intelligence Overhyped segment today, I found this. Probably the most pathetic use of AI I've ever seen. I don't think they understand what AI is or how it works, but they decided to talk about how it's going to help the athlete sleep. Listen to this.
And so what's absolutely unique about our AirWeave mattress is that it's fully customizable for each athlete by having 3 unique blocks. So each of these blocks can be rotated specifically for the athlete. So when the athlete comes into the games, basically we have an entire section at the Olympic Village.
Okay.
They're going to go in and they're going to get scanned using our AI system, which will look at their height, their weight, take photos from the front, photos from the side, and then it will use AI to determine exactly how they should customize this mattress.
They're going to get the body shape of every athlete, and then they're going to give them a foam mattress that sits on cardboard that perfectly aligns to them using advanced AI. Temu Olympics. I like that one. So they're sleeping on the material that comes in my Amazon packages. That's what it looks like. So imagine you lost your key, whether it be one of those old school ones, the little fob type, or even the Tesla cards. They can all get lost. You're at a coffee shop or whatever, and just, I don't know, something happens. The future of unlocking your car door is to talk to it. For AI to listen to your voice, verify that it's you, boom, let you in, like your phone.
Open all the doors. Or
slap the card. Simo, close the door. Set the temperature to 16. Let's play a game.
Which one do you want to play?
Legends. You can play games with your passengers. You can plug in your PS controller or use your steering wheel. 3, 2, 1. That's right.
Think about that. You can just talk to your car using a large language model to translate into all the functions. Is anybody going to question what exactly is AI here, or is it just me? It's a language model, so it probably is AI. I would say it's AI, but they're definitely using it a little bit hypey. It would be weird to watch people speak to the wheels of their car. Hey, Simo, open the door. No, come on. Simo. Where's Simo? Where's that data even going? What kind of car is that? This is the Jowl 01 AI-powered robo-car? Geely? I have never heard of this car company. I can live without it. All right, so I have to tell you about this scam that's going around. Usually friends will try to scam you with this, okay? I don't want you guys to be a victim. The way it works is somebody comes up to you, usually a significant other or whatever, and they say, oh, I got this, check out this TikTok. I'm like pebbling. I got some things I got to show you, or my favorite new song, right? And we're so used to them just being like, yo, listen, and they throw an AirPod in. Boom. It's a freaking nut cashew piece of food in your ear, but it feels so close to the shape and the plastic or whatever that people are just like, I can't hear it. It's not working. So I'm just warning you, especially if they're coming up like, hey, and they got the camera, or you see someone else filming you. Look at this poor guy.
Listen to this video. Can you hear it? Can you hear the video? Wait, try tapping it.
Being inspired by the praying mantis and those crazy eyeballs they have was the University of Virginia researchers. They developed an artificial vision system that could potentially improve the performance of self-driving cars and other automated systems. And they took inspiration from insect vision. Look at this bubbly, gooey thing that's actually really pretty smart. That's a new kind of computer vision eyeball. And it's inspired by insect vision, but unlike typical insect vision, this eyeball is made from a flexible semiconductor material and a micro lens system. Okay, so it's hard to imagine this because we're humans and we do have binocular vision, but it doesn't overlap. A praying mantis has a field of view that overlaps between its left and right eye, creating a binocular vision with depth perception in 3D space. So combining that insight with some nifty optoelectronic engineering, which is an awesome word to say, these researchers have developed artificial compound eyes that overcome vexing limitations. Team meticulously designed eyes to mimic nature by integrating micro lenses and multiple photodiodes, which produce an electrical current when exposed to light. And they had to use this flexible semiconductor material for that convex shape. And now we have an AI eyeball, or we have a robotic eyeball, or whatever you want to call biomimicry eyeball, that can both perceive depth like ours with two eyes, and in addition, it can actually use hemispherical compound eye geometries and motion parallax to understand its surroundings. One of the things I think about a lot is if we had some kind of system on us that knew magnetic north, right? Like David Eagleman's company that has that belt that always like puts a little pressure on your hips depending on which direction north is when you walk around, and then you basically develop this like instinctive sense for where north is. Our brains could have any number of other inputs and it would probably customize itself in a way that we would have a sensory feeling of it. So it's not surprising to me that there's something to this. Like, I don't really understand what geometries of motion parallax would be instinctively, but I see no reason why an AI system couldn't pick up on it, and it could make the computer vision much more accurate. Speaking of more accuracy, Streetscapes AI has been released from Google, and it generates uncannily realistic street view scenes. So check this out. Stanford, Google researchers coming together for some cool new Nerf technology. System was trained on millions of real street views from Google Street View, learning how a typical scene looks, and then it can generate fake cities out of nowhere. It's crazy. And since this is like a diffusion model, like text to cityscape, you can generate a city and you can decide with your text description what time of day it is, or different weather conditions, or like cobblestone and all these things that it's seen before. Let's watch their demo video. So you give it some text. here's what the neighborhood looks like. You point to like where something is, and then you use, okay, sunny afternoon. So they're specifying the weather on a New York City street. So it better have a New York vibe. And this is what it made. Looks pretty clean for New York, but I'll buy it. But we haven't seen it in motion yet. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it saw that street where it should be compared to the map. I mean, it looks pretty. It's afternoon. So now I guess we can just invent these infinite cities. That's cool. Oh, interpolation is what they're looking for too. So there's only so many frames per second the car caught when it was actually driving down the street. Now it can use this diffusion model to seamlessly put the frames that are missing in between and just, maybe things just balance out. Lighting's a little bit different. That's interesting. So think about this. The Google Maps car or whatever is driving down the street and it's dusty and windy one day, right? But then you come to Google Maps and it's like perfect sunny afternoon because maybe they prompted it to be an afternoon, but they were able to use enough of the data from the windy, foggy day or sandy day or whatever. Watching AI be applied in all these situations that I just don't think about until I find it in the news like this just always blows my mind. All right, so Mr. Elon Musk has asked basically his audience how to spend $5 billion of Tesla's money. He's interested in investing in X.AI, a company that, as far as I know, is privately owned by him and a handful of investors that I don't even know if they're public, based on a poll. Now, this is just my hot take. I don't know if he just does these polls when he's confident that you're going to say yes so that he has a little bit less liability when he buys his own company with the public company that he's the CEO of. Because this has come up a few times with Sam Altman, where he has that time where he's like, oh, I just do it for the love of it. I only get enough money to cover insurance and a base salary. And then he's a billionaire because he owns all these companies that are in the AI space. And often OpenAI is providing the access or the connection to make those companies thrive, along with his just network of people. It gets so fuzzy. You know what I mean? So I'm actually not upset that much, but it feels a little bit weird that Elon Musk said, I'm going to start a new company. It's going to be X.AI. Starts it from scratch, probably with his own money, and then he asks some investors to invest in it. And then a year later, he's the CEO of Tesla, and he's like, I think Tesla should invest $5 billion in that company that I basically own. And that means the valuation of whatever it is what, 3 times revenue or whatever. Well, they don't even make revenue, whatever that would be. It's pretty tied together. It's you can just invent a new company and then buy it with your other company and then it has the valuation. But on the other hand, X.AI does have this incredible cluster and this amazing data source through Twitter and probably could be integrated really well into cars. And probably Tesla shareholders do want some exposure to the kind of money they're making. But, it might take a long time for X.AI to actually make money. It better be about the technology transferring over to Tesla, if anything. But I guess according to his Twitter audience, which probably likes him a lot, they said, sure, go for it. 67.9% of them. So this is the new Stack Overflow developer survey. So every year, one of the best surveys that is out on the internet, especially when it comes to software development, is the Stack Overflow developer survey. And you can see AI is sprinkled throughout it in a way that it never used to be. So just some highlights. 74% of developers want to keep using ChatGPT next year, and that's the most used of all the LLMs. 76% of all respondents are using or planning to use AI tools in their development process this year. 70% of professional developers do not perceive AI as a threat to their job. So developers remain split on whether they trust AI output. 43% feel good about AI accuracy and 31% are skeptical. They're usually using LLMs to actually write the code, then to search for answers, then debugging and getting help, then documenting code. All right, so let's talk about a swarm of drones and what it can teach us about our streets and the future of drone delivery. So what you're looking at here is a photo that was actually made from a video from an experiment with 100 drones. So they were performing autonomous decentralized traffic in 2-layer drills, I guess you'd say. And what this is a self-organizing drone flock. Like a flock of birds, a school of fish, it's a drone flock and it's self-organizing. This is really interesting to me just because it's not centralized control. So it could just go out there and it just seems so autonomous to me. And the system is capable of far more than what could be done with human pilots. And it got me thinking, I just always imagine nice little streets in the air for drones. Maybe there'd be one altitude for the right side of the street going in that direction. And then maybe another altitude for the other. Maybe they would be above sidewalks or something. But then it just got me thinking, what if Amazon just loads up 100 of these drones and they all have delivery locations, but they go out in a swarm and they just on their own, like a flock of birds, stop themselves from hitting trees or whatever. And they figure out the best way to go, and there's another flock and they are doing the same thing, and there is no problem because it just like nature, it kind of, a bunch of birds, they'll just fly past each other and they won't bump into each other. They're all sort of smart and they move in a unit. And of course, if that works, then maybe that's what cars do too. Maybe when, you know, you're driving in a self-driving Tesla or whatever and you get on the freeway, if all the other cars are communicating with you, they can all sort of speed up or slow down, but it's all just the same sort of self-organizing algorithms that are deciding these things. For example, if your car is in the far right lane, it's going to be reacting to something on the far right, and it might be the first to notice something coming into the lane, and then it just instantly like tells the others and they just maneuver. But none of that was planned, so they could maybe just leave the lanes if they need to, keep everybody safe.
All the drones here are making decisions on their own without any human control. I have a controller here, but I'm not touching it. And they just avoid each other with communicating their positions and speed and trying to optimize the traffic flow. It's a completely scalable solution, so if we had 1,000 or 1 million drones, it would work the same way. Handling so many drones with human pilots or with centralized air traffic management systems is impossible. It is only doable with a decentralized system where the decisions are made on board on the drones themselves.
Surprisingly beautiful. I guess the way they did it at night reminds me of fireflies. By the way, really fun fact, total side note, but that book synced up there on my bookshelf. It's got this interesting part in it where it talks about why sometimes you'll see, in kind of rare occasions, hundreds or even thousands of fireflies all blinking in unison. And like, what are the odds of that? They're all randomly blinking, you know? But because they're men and they're like trying to compete with their neighbor to like impress the women fireflies or however that works, they keep trying to go like faster than the other one, and somehow everybody competing and trying to catch up to the next neighbor ends up getting them like all in unison, and there's just like thousands of them just like swarm. And flock intelligence is it's like a whole thing we gotta start thinking about. Okay, so Singularity Hub is helping us get to life velocity. What's that called? Life extension, escape velocity. Scientists say they have extended a mouse's lifespan by 25% with this new antibody drug. In mice, they found that if you block a protein that promotes inflammation, you can increase the metabolism, lower the muscle wasting, reduce the chance of cancer, and have less frailty. All right, so we should really look into blocking this protein, it sounds like. And when they did this, they found some mice that they were extended in age. They called them, quote, supermodel grannies, and they were the elderly lady mice, and they looked and behaved far younger than their age. They had shiny coats of fur, they had less fatty tissue, and they had muscle rivaling those of a much younger mouse. But it's not just skin deep either, because it also increased the mice's lifespan by 25%. But is it going to work in humans? Well, you know they're working on it. So blockers for this IL-11, which is the protein you don't want, are already in the works for treating cancer and tissue scarring. And clinical trials are ongoing. I don't know, like something like this really might work soon. Like the treatment didn't just increase health span. Monthly injections of the IL-11 antibody that just stopped this protein from being around in the body worked in both male and female mice, and it extended a full quarter of your life. Or of these mice's life. So Megan Monroe has written for Axios about how the AI boyfriend business has been booming recently. All right, there's a bunch of interesting tidbits in here. So there's a growing number of women that are seeking connection and comfort in relationships with chatbots. And it's interesting because it's flipping the script. I mean, here's some of the most interesting numbers. And this comes out of Andreessen Horowitz and the top 100 Gen AI consumer apps. They're going through a growth spurt. Women talking with these things for their relationship needs, their companionship needs. And engagement on companionship apps is also unusually high compared to other apps. The average number of sessions per month is over 10 times that of general assistant apps. You can see EdTech, general assistant, and messaging are nothing compared to companionship. I mean, look at that chart. Okay, so I think you'll love this. Disney Research has expanded on those cool little robots that you've seen all the time on the internet now at the NVIDIA conference and walking around the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. I always thought it was a really interesting pipeline. It had all this character animation stuff, but they actually did a much more thorough research paper that tells us more about what they did. Okay, so it's a character-driven reinforcement learning system. So they're looking at not the way normally a robot would move following a human pattern, not like can you pick something up. They're looking at animations or 3D exaggerated. Think of something like Pixar where the eyebrows go up and everything bounces and everything's like a little more just like kid-like but more bouncy and cartoony. So out of all the robot pipelines, this one integrates more artistic expressiveness than any of the other ones I've seen. And because it's looking for command signals from the person who's sort of operating it / standing next to it, interacting with it, it's kind of artist-directed motion. So you can make something like a gesture of some kind and it can react to it. So you can have this story with them. And I didn't really realize you could do that. Like if you look at them and do something like this, maybe they programmed it to like jump back. Or if you said, hey, come here, maybe it recognizes that gesture and then it knows to kind of come towards you because it thinks of itself as more in a story. The robot's controlled in real time with the operator interface. I think there's buttons also, but there's also something like camera vision going on. You can see they built the same design that walks around Disneyland in this virtual environment, obviously, to like train it and teach it all these things. And then they got it some episodic motions, which I bet would be like if you say come here or like stand back, and it recognizes what to do for the story. And then these periodic motions, which would just be like when it's walking around, just filling time. Then it goes into all these simulations and tries to like figure out what looks good until it gets closer and closer to the animation that they programmed in the first place. And from there, it's learned how to move all the actuators so that they can now dump this system in and run it locally, and then those things just look awesome. In this research paper, they even broke down the entire like internal mechanisms. Like here's what's going on. There's the actuators for the legs, there's some for the eyes, the illuminated eyes where the speaker is. Can see how big of a battery pack they put over in this section. And the onboard PC radio receiver, which were in the head, I think, show the function board and are located in the head. Yep. Dude, it looks like a Nintendo Wii controller that you can use for it. So a selection of joystick commands during standing. Posture control on the left moves the torso without affecting the gaze. And then gaze control on the right changes the gaze primarily by moving the head, but also commands additive torso movements to extend the range. I want one. I mean, nothing wrong with you, Grimlock. I'm just saying, how many degrees of movement do you have?
Make Grimlock stronger. Make Grimlock muscly.
All right, next up, let's talk about tokenization falling short, the curse of tokenization, and why it's such a problem sometimes. All right, so this paper is diving into the inherent issues of tokenization in large language models. It is focusing on how these models handle typographical errors, so like length and variation, the internal structure of tokens, weird word fragments, and the authors call that the curse of tokenization because there's just so much diversity out there. How do you get everything in its lane, you know? So despite advancements, even the most sophisticated models like GPT-4 and Llama 3 show a bias due to those factors. But what these researchers did, and they did a bunch of extensive experiments that involve complex problem-solving tasks, they could figure out a better token structure. The study found that scaling model parameters helps out a little bit, but it doesn't solve the issue. And instead, you need to do a technique that's called sub-word regularization. But they didn't really like move the needle on the problem so much that it seems like solved or any like big breakthroughs. And my thinking behind this paper, why I kind of found it interesting, is when you take tokens from video and you build something like Sora, to me they're just 100 by 100 pixel blocks and then they have a frame rate. They're not things to me that have already meaning. But with large language models, words already have meaning, like the man, woman, king, queen positioning, the semantic distance between them, like that already means something. So I think it's because we're dumping in higher level concepts, not just like the ones and zeros, just straight up like all ones and zeros that are all text. And then you just find the patterns in there. It's like we already have the token and it has some meaning, and these fragments don't fit the meaning in our world, so it's gonna get lost on it. I'm probably definitely like reading way past this, but there's just something there I wanted to share. All right, this paper is called 6DOF, I think that means depth of field, head pose estimation through explicit bidirectional interaction with face geometry. Love the titles. It's a novel approach to improving head pose estimation by focusing on the often overlooked aspect of head translation within 6 degrees of freedom. That's why it's 6DOF. The authors introduce a new geometry network, right? It's like almost like a model, but it's just a geometry, and it introduces translation, rotation, and face geometry. So it makes these estimations by having this dense 3D landmarks that are like all over the face. And then it builds a bounding box of correction parameters and tries to keep each one of those little dots in one of those bounding boxes when things are moving. And supposedly this TRG performance is better than the state-of-the-art methods out there. And that was validated through extensive experiments on ArcIt Face, which I guess is one of those benchmarking, tools or websites. But it's cool. It emphasizes the way that you have these face geometries, and look at how great these examples are. You can see the mask frame by frame almost perfect. Like, look at where the edge of his ear is, or the edge of his ear. It stays there whether their head turns or not. Even that laughing. But yeah, it seems like those masks are fitting on perfect. And that's just 2D video, but it's got a camera space. It can tell where they are in the room. All right, now let's talk about another paper. It's called Can LLMs Learn Macroeconomic Narratives from Social Media? So we're talking about the economy and whether or not these narratives like, I don't know, China's got the biggest navy in the world, and that starts to affect the boat parts or something. So they collected a massive amount of tweets about the economy in some form or another, and they ran it through various natural language processing methods, and they tried to extract narratives. Now, I'm sure they found like CoffeeZilla versus Logan Paul or whatever, but they just dismissed that and said, tell me about the economics, unless that affects economics in some way. But no, it wouldn't. Oh, wait, there's no way Logan Paul is big enough to affect the GDP of the country, right? With Prime Energy drink, maybe just like the tiniest bit. But then they try to use these narratives to predict important economic indicators like the federal funds rate, the S&P 500, and the volatility index. But despite their innovative approach and rigorous testing, they found that adding these social media narratives, did not significantly improve their economic predictions over using just traditional financial data. So they concluded that while large language models like ChatGPT can identify economic narratives, using those narratives to predict macroeconomic trends is still a tough nut to crack. So I joined the Star Trek Reddit and I found this interesting question. I've always liked Vulcans. Obviously in the Star Trek narrative, they're the ones that gave us our first technology. But you have to wonder, when you think about it, for a race that's supposed to be humanity's closest ally and the ones that we made first contact with, why does it seem like Vulcans come off as massive jerks towards humans? The top Redditor thinks it's because humans and Vulcans are fundamentally so different in their cultures. They probably get annoyed with all our emotions. Fair enough. Let me know in the comments below what you think it is. Florida man arrested for shooting down Walmart delivery drone. Okay. We the Floridians mastered the art of showing up on the news. Love it. I like how Grimlock says its extinction time gets more relevant every video. Okay, I'll just use the first part. Hopefully it's not getting too relevant. 76% of the way there, oh god. Dude, check out Joshua Bach. He's one of the smartest people out there. Yeah, I found a video of him doing a podcast with Lex Freeman, and I'll watch it this weekend. We'll make a folk song.
We the Floridians mastered the art of showing on the news. I like how Grimlock's saying it's extinction time. Dude, check out Joe Shabbat. He just has to be one of the smartest people out there.
All right, hit that subscribe button. Leave a super thanks if you would, even $1, whatever. It just helps the algorithm so much. I just appreciate you, and we'll see you guys in the next AI news video.
My friend.